who is in heaven.
May your name be holy.
Your kingdom come and your will be done.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us of our sins,
as we forgive those who sin against us.
Lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
Amen.
Okay, let's do a little survey here just for fun. Anybody enjoying the sunshine? Oh, come on. Okay, now, I know there is, and I fall for it every time, there's fake spring. And then how many of you, just for fun, how many of you think we're in fake spring and we're going to get more than an inch of snow before summer? Lift up your hand. Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm suckered in. The sun comes out, and I'm getting my camper ready, and I'm getting my fish. I'm ready to go play. And so we'll see. We'll see if you're right. I fall for fake spring every year. And but we'll see. Anyways, that has nothing to do with church today, but I like the sun. And so that's fun. And then we're coming to sunrise this morning. It just makes me, in fact, it was beautiful. And blue sky, vitamin D. That's why you guys are happier people than normal 9 a.m.ers today. You've been getting vitamin D. Here's what we're going to do. Today's a little different. I'm just going to play all my cards for you so you know what's going on. I'm going to let you out a little early today because we're doing a Serve Expo. We're going to give you an opportunity to sign up. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why. And we're going to talk a little bit about church today. So if you're a first or second time guest, welcome. Today's a weird day. But I think you're still going to get something out of it. But we're going to talk about what we do all the time. We're going to talk about church and why we do this and why how our mentality should be when it comes to church. And so we're in a series called The Fundamentals. That's why we're talking about church today. We're in a series called The Fundamentals. And what we're doing is we're talking about what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus? What are the fundamentals of following Jesus? And these are important because this year our prayer is that we're going to take new ground that we've never had before. And the only way you take new ground that you haven't had before, you got to be great at the fundamentals. And so we talked about hearing God's voice. We talked about people who are people of the Word. I had someone come up to me on Wednesday, and they had a simple question. They asked me a question, and then they were a little embarrassed after they asked the question. Like, it's such a simple question. I'm like, no, it's a great question. And she goes, I just started reading the Bible for the first time. So I gave her a big hug, freaked her out totally. She'll probably never be back. But I was so pumped. Because we have so many new people reading the Bible for the first time. We can get excited about that 9 a.m. We've had a lot of people who used to be Bible readers who stopped reading the Bible, who've picked it back up and said, I'm jumping back in. I love that. And let me tell you two things from two people who are older than dirt that talked to me this week. And so when they're that old, you listen to what they have to say. And one's my mom, so I can say that. But I had one older lady hug me on the way out from last message, and she said this. She said, when I was a young child, I started reading the Bible, and I didn't understand it, so I haven't read it since then. She goes, today, here's her words, I know I'm old, but I'm going to start reading it again. Isn't that awesome? Come on. That wasn't my mom. But that's awesome. That's what we want. And my mom emailed me this week because she watches all my messages and then sends me a critique. And I get in trouble so often. And then she doesn't get half of my jokes, and that's a good thing, okay? But she didn't appreciate the zit joke last week. Anyways, she sent me a message. She said, son, she goes, I've read the Bible through in 1 year more times than I can count. And she goes, I'm old, and I'm still getting stuff out of it. Isn't that awesome? Oh, come on. I got an awesome mom. Awesome mom. And she paid me $20 to say that. So, just joking. Okay, so lots to jump in here. In fact, let's start with looking at the transformational model. This is something we talk about a lot around here. It is sort of the map for discipleship. And what you need in your life is you need, I put Canvas, really that's church. You need to be part of a gathering that's a regular gathering that you're part of with other believers that you come together and worship. You need that in your life. And let me just simply say this to the online crowd today. Hebrews says, do not neglect the gathering of believers. I love online, but if online is your diet, you'll starve to death because you need to come together with other believers. So I want to just put that out there so in your pajamas at home, you feel guilty. So there's that right there. Okay, and so you need to have within your life, you need to have a gathering that you're regularly part of. And so that we call that Canvas. And I'm just going out on a limb here, but I just figure if you're here, you're Canvas. So I'm just going with that, okay? And so there it is. And then you need Jesus friends in your life. We're going to talk about that in weeks to come. And you need lost friends in your life. Lost friends are people who are not followers of Jesus. You need them in your life. And so we're going to talk all about those in the future. But today, I really want to focus in on Canvas and what we do as a regular basis here. There's a lot we do, and we do it together. And let me give you, because church was not man's idea. This is God's idea. This was his plan for us. It was Jesus who gave us this command. And I want to give it to you. It's called the Great Commission. We find it in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, 19, and 20. Verse 18 is awesome, okay? It makes me smile every time I read it. If you're on the Canvas Bible reading app, you're going to get to Matthew 28 soon. Here's what it says, and you'll remember this. It says, Jesus came and told his disciples, this after he rose from the dead, he's getting ready to ascend into heaven. These are the last words recorded of Jesus from the book of Matthew. Here's what he says. Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Now, before I go to verse 19, you have to understand verse 18. Here's what Jesus is saying to all of his followers. I'm the boss. That's what he's saying. It's a total Jesus flex. Impressed? Jesus is simply looking at them in a humble way, saying, I got the power. I got the authority. That means whatever comes in verse 19 is going to be really important because he just flexed in verse 18. Are you with me, everybody? Okay. So he's saying, I'm the boss. And he is the boss. He conquered death and the grave. Anybody here do that yet? Yeah, no. You're the only one. And so he's the only one that can say verse 18. Jesus came and told his disciples, I've been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Verse 19, therefore. Well, therefore what? Therefore, since I'm the boss, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. There's a Trinity verse right there. Verse 20, teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Now, here's one of the hardest things in the relationship that we have with one another. I'm talking you and me. Is often when we hear this text right here, we think, that's the pastor's job. Or that's the church's job. And you're right on the latter half. It is the church's job. But the thing we have to understand is you're the church. Like, this text is not to Canvas organization. This text is to Jesus' followers. And the first word of the Great Commission is go. It's not pause. It's not think about it. It's not deliberate. It's not wait a while. The first word of the Great Commission is go, which means we need to be active in moving the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ to this world. And every one of us needs to be part of that if we're a Jesus follower, in our own ways and in our abilities to be able to communicate that. And it was God's idea to work through man. Last week, if you were here, when I talked about how the Bible was written, about 40 authors, but that God worked through humankind, he breathed upon them and inspired them what to write. He works in conjunction with humankind. We saw it in creation. We see it when he led the Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land. We see it in the writing of the Bible. We also see it in communicating the good news of Jesus to the world. You are Jesus' plan to communicate the good news. Look at your neighbor, point a finger at them, and go, you are the plan. Look at your other neighbor that you like less and go, you are the plan. You're the plan. You're the plan. And that's what we have to look at. And here's what I've discovered. We're better at the plan when we do it together than when we do it by ourselves. And if I could impart a truth into your heart, it would be this thought: that you have an ownership of the Great Commission of Jesus to go. Like you feel a weight of responsibility. Because here's verse 18 and 19. Here's what's happening. Jesus saying, I have been given all authority in heaven and earth. And then he shifts that responsibility to us. Now go. Now go. He's sharing it with us to go and accomplish this. And that in your heart, there would be an ownership to this. Because when you have an ownership mentality, it's different than a renter's mentality. We must have an owner mentality when it comes to Canvas Church. It's not my church. It's not the staff's church. It's our church. We must have an owner mentality. I went and picked up my mom and dad for Christmas. And I flew over there, and then I drove back. I wanted to do it in one day. I'm a little wild that way. So I told mom and dad, you got 2 potty stops. Hold on. Here we go. And so, and then mom reminded me how often they stopped for me. And so I stopped a few more times for it. And, but I flew over to Seattle, and then I rented a car. Get into the car, and I noticed that the oil needs to be changed on the car. That the warning light was coming up, and I'm like, oh, these guys, come on. Well, they have to take care of this. Not my car, I don't care. And so then I drove up to Oak Harbor, picked up my parents, drove them all the way across Washington, over Lookout Pass, over 4th of July Pass, got all the way over here. The car was filthy. And so I drop it off at the rental agency over here, and I got to tell you, I smiled when I dropped it off. Oil needed change, car was filthy on the outside, and I'm like, their problem. I don't have to worry about it. Now Friday morning, I went out because it was beautiful outside, and I took my Jeep out into Wild Bill and played I was up in the snow like this high. It was like, and it was just wonderful, and I'm driving there, and we were having a wonderful time, and when I got back that afternoon, what's the first thing I did? I washed that little baby. I mean, I cleaned it. I made it look nice. I made it look shiny. Why? I'm the owner. See the difference between when you rent something and when you own something? When you rent something, you're just a consumer. It's give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. When you have an owner's mentality, you're all in. It's a we mentality, not a they mentality. Here's what we need. We need to have an owner's mentality about what we're doing right here. We must have an owner's mentality about what it is that we do church. Why? Because it's not just something we do on a weekly basis. It's a command by God that we would come together and that we would then go and reach the world for Jesus Christ. I want us to have an owner's mentality because when we accomplish things, then we get to celebrate them together because we did this together. When we see all the baptisms, we did that. When we see all the salvations, people following Jesus, we did that. When someone comes up and says, I just started reading the Bible, that's a we thing, because it wouldn't have happened if we weren't doing this together. It wouldn't have happened if you're not here lifting your hands, worshiping God. It would not happen if you're not smiling and being warm as people are walking in. It wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people serving in our kids' ministries. It wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people serving free coffee in your hand to keep your cold hands warm. And so it gives you something to drink because you feel comfortable holding something or in your big group of people. All those things matter. It's the sociological environments that we create to create opportunities that people experience God in a life-changing way. When we launch a campus, and we're going to launch more in the future, that's something we do together. Some of us, you serve at setting it up. Some of you went down to Missoula and helped set that up. Many of you gave financially to help open that door in an incredible way. This is something we do. We celebrate these wins together. In fact, let me just very quickly give you a run-through of what the health of our campus is. Our church has never been healthier than it is right now. And I'm going to tell you this. I want you to hear all this. I want you to like Canvas. I want you to love God. Canvas is not the mission. Someone say amen to that. Canvas isn't the mission. Jesus is the mission. Canvas is just simply a tool that's working right now, so we're excited a little bit about it. But it's just the tool. It's just the plate that serves the wonder of who Jesus Christ is. Are we all owning that together right there? That's important. That's important. I'm not giving my life for Canvas. Are you kidding? I'm giving my life for Jesus because his work should never pass away. Let me tell you what's going on. Billings continues to break records in attendance. We were given a great building there from the Northwest Ministry Network, and we are reaching building. They had over 300 in attendance last week. It's just amazing what God is doing there. Columbia Falls, oh my goodness. Columbia Falls, you know that little town over there? In the last 6 months, they've started 2 more gatherings because they're just filling up. Again, they're running over 400 people, and many of them are brand new believers that have found Jesus and are changing their life. It's incredible. It's incredible. So that Columbia Falls, going into April, will be running 5 gatherings a week. Oh, my, crazy over there. They're crazy. I love it. Cut Bank, we have no longer... We no longer in Cut Bank think about Canvas Cut Bank. We just think Cut Bank. There's a sociological term or fact that when you reach 2 to 3 to 4% of the community, you have an influence on the entire culture of the community. Cut Bank runs almost 10% of the community. Unbelievable. A church that ran 30 people. Yeah, come on. Clap fast. I have a lot to say. 30 people who ran 30 people for 30 years is now running over 200. And here I'm going to tell you my favorite part of Cut Bank Church, because we draw from Browning and from Shelby and Cut Bank. And when I was just there a few months ago. When I walk into that church, the church reflects the community, and it's a beautiful palette of colors and people that are there. It's gorgeous. God, it's an incarnational church that's reaching people. I got to keep going. And then Missoula, we opened the doors to our building in Missoula last week, and it was boom shakalaka awesome. And tons of people showed up. Here's a quick little video just to highlight what's happening in Missoula.
Hey, Canvas, come here. I have a secret. I want to show you something. Come here. Nope, a little bit closer. Come on. A little bit closer. Come check this out.
Come on, isn't that awesome right there? Okay, now for the rest of the time, let's talk about Kalispell. Hi. I love what God is doing in Kalispell. 13 years ago, my first Sunday here, we had a 9 o'clock and an 11 o'clock. We had 458 people in those 2 gatherings combined. And it was exciting to see what God was going to do. The church was ready to go where it had never been before. And there was some significant challenges before us at that time. In fact, I went to Starbucks before I ever preached here, and I said to the barista, I said, where should I go to church new to town? Because they didn't know I was the pastor at what was known as Christian Center at the time. And she told me several other different churches that were not this one. And then when she came and gave me the coffee, or I didn't drink coffee, but it was a chai, grande chai, no water, extra hot, drink it with pinky up. And when she handed that to me, she whispered to me, I just wouldn't go to Christian Center. I didn't even solicit that. And I said, thank you very much. We had a hurdle ahead of us. And the leadership of this church, the board, said we are willing to go where God is calling us to go, and wherever he's moving, that's where we're going to go. And I will tell you, over the last 13 years, the leadership of this church, the board of this church, has sacrificed again and again and again and made difficult decisions. And last week, over 4,000 people walked through the door in Kalispell. How about that? We give God praise for that. And the barista last night sat right over there. Boom, shakalaka. Because numbers have names and names have story, and God is interrupting and people's lives and putting them on the right course. And I say all of that, here it is. Thank you for helping make this a reality, that we can go and accomplish the Great Commission together. And it requires all of us to do this. Now, we have a challenge. You hear me passive aggressively. People say I'm not passive aggressive. They just drop the word passive. And so you've heard me aggressively say I'm always moving people out of the gatherings. Here's Sunday, listen to me. The way our church is going to continue to reach people is by moving people off of Sunday to other gatherings. And we have to do it from a missional perspective. When an auditorium is 80% full, people stop inviting friends. There's a sociological barrier in their mind we have proven this again and again and again and again. And I'm going to show you a graph here in a minute that shows you that if we can get people to move off of primetime gatherings, the primetime gatherings will always be full because people will invite their friends. And when I'm preaching, I'll just tell you this right now. When I'm preaching, I do a couple things. And number one, I always count how many people are in the balcony. It's just a habit that I do. The other thing is I'm looking for 4 seats together. And I see one spot right there and one spot over there. 4 seats. Why? It means 2 people can invite their friends and they can come and find seats together. In our 9 a.m. right now, there's only like 3 spots in this auditorium where that could happen. That limits the potential for us to go. It changes the word go into pause. And we want to be a church that wants to do the mission. Throw up that graph here really quickly. I want to show you something that's fascinating. And boom, there's shakalaka, there it is. Look at this. Over there on the left, if you can see it, this is a little screen you can see a little harder. You may need to look here. I've been coming to Canvas how long? So that top is 0 to 6 months. The bottom is 5+ people, 5+ years. Look at this. Our 9 o'clock, this right here is a big number. This number right here is probably a lot of people 65 years and older. We're just gonna sensitive. Okay. But what we see here is look at this 10:30 gathering. It's the number one place people come to church. And look at how low this is. It's because people continue to move to our other gatherings, and we continue to reach people at our primetime gatherings. And so that's what we need to continue to do. We need to continue to move people out of our Sunday gatherings to our other gatherings. But our other gatherings are getting full too. Do you know that we run over 700 on Wednesday night? Shut up. Crazy. At the noon gathering today, we'll have over 600 people. And by the way, the noon gathering, I just got to get moving. The noon gathering is the latest arriving gathering. Who goes to the noon gathering? People who were drunk the night before. And they're finding Jesus and getting baptized. And life is being changed. The problem is, then they get sober and start showing up at 10:30. So here's what we're going to do. Here's where we've been praying about this. We've been wrestling with this. I say a lot of that tongue in cheek. If you're offended, I'm sorry. You're going to have a miserable life. But I will say this. I will say this. We are going to do something here. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm always willing to try. Is we are going to double down on our Saturday nights. We are going to add another gathering on Saturday. We will do 6 gatherings a week starting the first weekend of April. And we're going to have a 4:30. Yeah, come on. Oh, it's going to get good here in a second. We're going to do a 4:30 and a 6:30. And they're going to be different than Sunday a little bit. I'm going to tell you why. We're doubling down to make in Kalispell Saturday night the place to be. Now, 9 o'clock, 10:30, noon is still going to be great, but Wednesday night is just going to have a little bit of special sauce on it. Let me tell you some of the things that we're going to do, because we're going to do everything we can to manipulate you to go to Saturday night, okay? I'm just playing all my cards. One of the things we're going to do on Saturday night is the messages are going to be interactive. And what do I mean by that? You will be able to anonymously ask me questions while I'm preaching, and I'm going to respond to those questions while I'm preaching. So if you wanted to go, I had another question about that graph, you could ask that. I'll get the questions. We have it all set up. I will get the questions up here, and I'm going to answer several of them while I'm preaching. I'll just make a pause for a moment. I go, let me answer this question. Blah, 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 blah. Here it is. Who is the greatest football team? It's the Seattle Seahawks, okay? And then I'll go back to preaching. Then I'll preach, and then some question will come in. They say, what is my favorite dessert? Oreos. Okay, and then I'll go back and go back into preaching. And hopefully they're deeper than that. But that's going to be happening on Saturday night only at the 4:30 and the 6:30. We're changing our kids' ministries. Let me tell you what's happening here. I just want you to hear my heart. We are going to use your children to guilt you into going to Saturday night, okay? Because Saturday night, Sunday is wow. Saturday night is going to be wow to the second power. What do I mean by that? Your kids are going to come in and they're going to go, wow! Then a little bit later, they're going to go, wow! Again. It's wow to the second power. Saturday night special, that's taking place as well. Just to continue to sweeten the deal, coming up when we launch this, we're going to give everybody on Sunday free coffee carts that only work on Saturday night. I don't think it's manipulation if I'm telling you what I'm doing. We're going to give you all coffee cards, free coffee in the coffee shop. We can work something out on the donuts. But it has to be Saturday night only. And don't you come to Sunday and then come to Saturday night once and use your coffee card and then return back to Sunday. You'll go to another place. Okay, and so I'm having fun. And then between 4:30 and 6:30, we're extending our gatherings just a little bit so that there's a little bit more fellowship that's happening in the lobby, a little bit more connection. On Saturday nights, we might have more response time and prayer. It's going to be just a little bit more different that way. We're going to give ourselves a little bit more room for that kind of stuff. It's going to be, we're doing this because we believe in a couple of things. Number one, it's going to change church a little bit that will allow us to reach more people than we've ever reached before. And it opens up seats in our prime time because naturally lost people are going to show up on Sunday, and we're aware of that. And so we're going to open up prime time seats at prime time schedule. So that's our heart behind all that. Launches at the beginning of April, and it's going to be fun. And here's what I say. We need you. We need you to help make this happen. We need you to help make Saturday night happen. We need you to help make Wednesday night happen. We need you to help make all of our gatherings happen. Here's why. Because we're better together. This is the ownership. When we're talking about this, what I'm hoping to impart into your heart is, okay, I got to help make this happen somehow. Maybe it's you helping make kids' ministries phenomenal on Sunday. Maybe it's you going, dude, I'm going to have to change my schedule and start coming on Saturday nights and invite my friends. And I think we all have ownership in that aspect. Listen to 1 Corinthians 12:27. All of you together are Christ's body, and each of you is a part of it. See, when we all take ownership and we come together to do this, we begin to look like the body of Christ. And God multiplies that into what we are accomplishing to reach Kalispell for Jesus Christ, because we're in the middle of a city that is suffering without Jesus. And we sit here and we know the answer to life. I say let's do everything we can to communicate it and to create opportunities for people to experience God in a life-changing way. Here's how we're going to close. Our studies, our research, the survey that you did shows us that people who serve have a significant higher ratio of following Jesus consistently, mark rapidly growing in their faith, honor God financially. I could go down the list that people who serve, who are helping us do this, have a multiplication effect in their faith journey. And here was my prayer this morning. Father, would you multiply our efforts in the way that you multiplied when you asked the disciples to cast the net on the other side of the boat? The way that you helped the widow's oil in the jar never run dry. Father, would you multiply our efforts like you multiplied the food of the feeding of the 4,000? And the way you multiplied the food in the feeding of the 5,000. That may what we do today reap a harvest for months and years to come in souls. And it's not what I do. It's what we do. And I want to do our best to create opportunities on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. 6 times a week. We create those opportunities for people to experience God in a life-changing way. And the first step is encouraging you to serve. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to dismiss you. We have a Serve Expo out in our lobby. Many different ways for you to sign up and help. Once a month, twice a month, every week, whatever you want to do. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the string. You can't pick up your kids for 15 minutes because they're locked down. It's not that I'm using your children to hold you hostage. Oh, no, it is. And no, that's exactly what I'm doing. Because we want to give you the best opportunity that you can. So go out there, find a place to serve, then grab your kids, head home. We have another gathering. Boy, the 10:30 is going to get yelled at. It's going to be so awesome. Would you stand with me? Let's pray. I just ask a question here. I didn't do this in any other gatherings, but I think the 9 a.m. can handle it. How many of you here would say, Kevin, I have a renter's mentality and I'm going to shift it to an owner's mentality? Anybody here say, yeah, that's me. Yeah, thanks, yeah. And so, Father, you're the multiplier. Would you take our work? Would you take our offering? Would you take our worship? And would you multiply it for the kingdom, I pray, in Jesus' name. Canvas, I love you. See you next week, everybody.